Don't mind the. I think I assume it's an ambulance in the background. I don't know if. Oh jeez, it is that loud. Hi. This is our new season. I know we technically didn't really finish our third, but since I was taking kind of like a personal hiatus when it comes to this channel, we didn't really have time to finish our third season. So we're probably gonna quickly go into a little bit of information from that third season, but I think predominantly we're going to talk about the first two episodes of season 4 because that's the most recent episodes that came out. So without further ado, we're just going to quickly talk about the third season. I think what we left off is the last 3 or 4 episodes, and we there was that shark test with the hero that was pretending to be a villain with a bunch of henchmen, and he has like a very sonic ability. In that episode, we saw that uh, the half and half dude and like the guy that does all the wind stuff. It's not Todoroki. Fuck. Now I've forgotten the names already.
The half and half guy is the only one.
It's not Tamura. Say.
This is such a horrible description.
I know. But there was like a mini kind of like arc where the guy that can manipulate wind had beef with a guy that has the half and half ability. Shit, I keep forgetting names. I'm terrible at this.
Is he a villain?
No, this is a good guy. The one that had the whole arc about his daddy issue kid.
That is Todoroki, isn't it?
Todoroki. Sorry, I was trying.
You
to say
said
something.
Todoroki.
Did I say Todoroki?
Yes. You said it's not Todoroki.
I think I did. Sorry, I'm.
There's only one half and half guy in here.
I think I need to up my volume. Okay. Anyways, so him and the guy from the rival school that does a lot, does the win ability. He's the big guy that says sorry by hitting his head into the ground.
What?
Really? You don't?
There's a guy that says sorry by hitting his head.
Like remember he gets first introduced by saying sorry and then he hits his head directly onto the ground by bowing.
I feel like I vaguely remember this, but I don't remember who you're talking about because there's a lot of I don't know anybody with a wind ability.
Yeah, he manipulates the wind.
Manipulates the wind?
Yeah.
Well, go on.
Yeah, so Insana? Anyways, he has like
Oh!
The guy with the cape and everything.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
he looks like he's dressed in like to go on like a winter expedition.
We're off to a great start.
Yeah, we're off into a great start by forgetting it. And also remember that the first episode is also a recap episode, by the way.
Yeah.
By reintroducing the characters. Also, like, it's been a long time, by the way, right?
Yes.
Since this season 3. There was literally a movie in between season 3 and 4. Which they think this episode of season 4 kind of gets into a little bit. But just to keep it going, so these characters, Todoroki and the guy that can manipulate air, they have beef with each other, and they end up not passing their basically the hero licensing exam, and that is just kind of like a showing like just because you're the top of your class, your inner turmoil with other people can like still weigh you down and stuff like that. And what we know later, and I think if that next episode is that they still have chances to get their licenses, but they have to wait through like classes and things. So it's not the end of the world, but it's just kind of like a learning lesson. And then there's I think a few episodes later, we learned that one of the characters from that same group, from the guy that can manipulate wind, I think she's dead, right? Like, because it turns out that Cammy becomes one of the villain that takes blood from people. Sorry, bless you.
Excuse me. No, she just ended up not going to the exam.
She ends up not going to the exam, right?
And then Toga takes her place.
Toga
is the girl with the syringes.
Yeah. And she and so I guess Cammy never existed?
No, she does.
She does. It's just that was she also like the person that's described as the spy, by the way, from the beginning of the
You
season?
know, just assumption wise, that it's assumed that she exists and she's alive. It's just that um, Toga somehow managed to take her place
To
and
take her
replaced her.
place, yeah. And that's kind of like a very like kind of insidious kind of quirk, by the way. There was a inkling in the beginning of the arc where like the licensing I guess this is a licensing test arc, that like there's a weird kind of like negative feel or vibe that I got from her. She had a very like keen interest with Deku in like a very unhealthy way, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I could kind of sense that, and and you finally figure out that her quirk is like she takes the blood of other people and she literally becomes them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I think there's another big episodes where Todoroki and Kanchan have another fight, and then what comes out of that outcome of pretty good animated fight scene
You mean
is
Deku and Gatan?
Deku and Kanchan. Oh shit! I keep on forgetting the name. Deku and Kanchan. Sorry. Fuck. Uh, I'm really not family friendly today. I think because I feel like because we just. Oh, by the way, we're not sponsored, but we just had a bunch of pizza because I'm lazy to cook today.
We're a little overstuffed with
Yeah.
food.
So it's just a pasta and chicken and pizza. Anyway, so Deku and Kanchan have like another battle, and I think this is like one of the major kind of like head to heads since I think season 2.
It's supposed to be a fight where it's kind of like Bakugo kind of like letting out his feelings because he's been dealing with this pent up like feeling of like being the reason as to why All Might loses all of his powers in the
Yeah,
first place.
and I think his own and like he feels like he's not good enough or something. I think there was a portion of that in his conversation.
Yeah, I think he just has this constant fear of being inadequate, and
Yeah,
that becomes kind of one of his pitfalls. Like he's constantly wound up because he needs to be the best one.
yeah. I,
Um,
I feel like I kind of understand that, like where he's coming from and like dealing with his. I feel like he put himself into that expectation, and then now that it's being questioned, he's now constantly trying to like prove himself.
I mean, the way that it came off to me was that it kind of was like him being, or telling him, like, or telling Deku, like, I'm not dumb, you know?
Hmm.
I can, if you give me all of the evidence, I can put two and two together and figure it out.
Yeah,
Which, according to, like, most stories that are a part of Shonen and whatnot,
yeah.
you would assume that most of the other characters on the side don't really
Hmm.
have that kind of mentality.
Hmm.
Or it's more like, they kind of have like a this personality where they're like, oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But Bakugo is written in a way where it's like you know that he knows.
yeah, and like he kind of susses it out. Well, like, but Bakugo has always been kind of this character that kind of understands the situation. I feel like it's going to be eventually he's going to start asking questions and literally say like, okay, I made what you said before. It's like I put two and two together, and like what happens is that he susses out that Deku got his power through All Might, and like think throughout that episode is him trying to beat the truth out of Deku, and then All Might kind of steps in and kind of like basically now Bakugo is like he knows the situation, and I think one of the things he says was like, why would you tell if this was a big secret, why are you trying to tell me Deku or something like that? And like, they go back into their own kind of like rivalry things, and
Mm-hmm.
then that's something that All Might mentions is like these two are like, you know this is like that. I wouldn't say friendly kind of rivalry, but it is a rivalry in the sense that they can be like professionals, I guess.
Yeah.
And something at the end of this episode that I feel like, oh wow, that really kind of resonated with kind of like being a manager or something. It's just like All Might kind of knows that they could work together. It's just up to them to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a good sign is when they were talking about Deku's smooth, no, it was something attack, right? Something Sonic attack. It's something where he uses his legs a lot because if he uses his arms more,
His shooting style.
shooting style. There you go. I think is when they were commenting about his shooting style while they were cleaning up the dorms. It's kind of a start of them kind of bonding together. So like now I'm starting to understand like okay like why people could go with the whole Bakugo situation. You know what I mean? And so that kind of ends there, and then we get a start. You know, like the last two episodes of like the anime, right? It starts to kind of wrap up, but also builds up new characters, like right before. So you kind of get. I think I remember that there was a person with a plague doctor's mask.
Yep.
And he gets introduced as kind of like this mysterious kind of person, like kind of working in the shadows, and like basically what I could gather. Sorry, I'm just kind of like fast forwarding here. I'm just making sure. Uh, I just have just these links to kind of help me out, and so there we finally get the unmasked version of Twice, and we kind of get a little bit of how his quirk works, where it's just kind of like a dual personality thing. That's like there's one person kind of in his mind, but this other alternate personality, once he put on this mask, it's like his dominant personality. And also, this is something I kind of gathered by hearing the Japanese voice acting versus the American voice acting. Something about it kind of reminds me of Deadpool. I don't know if it's like the skin tight, the character design, but something about his character reminds me of Deadpool. That's my only comment about his introduction. But throughout the episode of where he gets introduced and like his role, um, heroes are starting to understand like there is a power in numbers, and you start to see like in this episode 62, right? 2 episodes before. Wait, no, an episode before the finale is like heroes are kind of like teaming up, and so now this whole idea of League of Villains, the Stain kind of like the hero killer kind of like idea of things is really coming into play towards this end of this season 3, and so you start to see that develop. You also get to see some new characters. Buff Tintin is in the picture. Buff Tintin, which is part of the big three. Sorry. Sometimes there's freaking advertisements on this website. He gets introduced, and in the next episode, 63, you get to see his power, which which apparently his power gets him naked.
I mean, it's not like his clothes burst off his body. And
Yeah.
I'm free.
But well, I think it was like his thing. He's like he could be transparent or something like that.
So what his quirk is that he phases through material things.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't control it in specific places, he can literally fall into the ground and never get back up.
Yeah, that's why his first introduction to Deku is like he comes up off the wall to kind of scare him like for a second.
Just his face.
Just his face, just off the ground. And yeah, I think I understand the memes now.
I love Mirio. Mirio is adorable.
Yeah, and he's my gym goals. I know I said it was Ida for a while, but he is my gym goals.
You just
now.
need to go into the gym, run on the treadmill, and go, power. That's like Terry Crews, though.
I know, and I feel like I understand this meme now because I feel like I've seen it before, but I just didn't understand it. It's like the I don't feel good meme. Remember when that happened? It was like I don't understand what this is, but I know this is a spoiler for something, but I don't know the context.
Right.
Yeah. But anyways, after that episode, we get the introduction of the big three and
Legend, Tamaki.
And like the Overhaul is like that's the new name of this guy, and then there's some other names that are also like introduced, like Sir Night Eye,
Yep.
which used to be All Might's partner.
Sidekick.
Yes, sidekick, and that's just all set up for season 3. And so season 4 starts up, titled is The Scoop on UA Class. Wait. The Scoop on UA Class 1A. That's the name of the episode. And it starts out with a newspaper, kind of like newsroom. They're covering what basically it's like a newsroom. They just need to figure out a story to write about, and basically they're going down the details. And this is something that you mentioned that I haven't watched, and I feel like I should watch. By the way, is the My Hero Academia movie.
It's just one brief scene.
Yeah, it's just one brief scene, but like they kind of like talk about it in very brief tones.
It makes for an interesting story.
Yeah. So and it's, if you haven't watched the movie, it's just them talking about it in very minor details, I think.
It only shows him as how he's like drawn in the movie.
Yeah.
Like there's a really short scene, but it's just literally showing you how All Might used to look like.
Yeah. So
and the person he worked with. That's it.
Yeah. So it was like a small synopsis of that. I think very minor. I don't think.
I mean, this entire episode was essentially like their recap of the past season or so. It explains all of the different characters
and
how
their quirks too. Predominantly 1A said in the title, and I think the only new character is this guy named Taneo Takuda, which is basically he's a freelance journalist, and his character design kind of looks like old dude. Not old dude, but
I took him as someone who's very like awkward and scrawny.
Awkward, scrawny.
Well, maybe not awkward and scrawny is the right word, but he has a tendency to like do that thing where people walk with their like
a hunch.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of a hunch.
Todd Langley is probably the more accurate.
Something about his character is like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Spike in Cowboy Bebop a little bit.
Oh.
Because he kind of reminds me. Well, he does have longer hair. He doesn't have the exact same hair. Also, he wears glasses, but he does have like that tall, lanky, kind of like skinny figure that Spike had in Cowboy Bebop. Also, there's some news about Cowboy Bebop, but that's besides the point. This is an anime podcast. If we do a movie podcast, I think something to talk about. But so you get this guy's backstory, Taneo's backstory, which is the reporter's backstory, and he talks about how All Might is like a big influence on him also, and recalls a moment that his dad got saved by All Might, and he tells this story, and then when you watch it visually, you're like, at what point did he have a camera? Because it's very drawn in this specific way. You learn later down the line that his quirk is that, according to the wiki, is whole body lens, and I think in the episode it's called.
He can just produce lenses from different parts of his body.
Yeah,
and there's a printer on his chest.
Yeah, and so he has a heart-to-heart with Deku, talking about his past and like basically trying to work on a story to talk about, and then he goes. And I think this is a very light episode, and I think that's why we didn't really talk about it, besides being busy, last week, because I felt like we should have just waited until the second episode, because it's just...
That's when it starts kicking back in.
Starts kicking back in, and as I say that, let's get to the second episode. So the second episode, it's called Overhaul, and it's basically kind of a big introduction for this character in particular. So the first half of the episode, we stick with Twice. What the guy? His name is Twice, right?
The guy that splits, yeah.
With that split personality. Twice leads Overhaul to an abandoned factory. So like, majority of kind of the first half of the episode is that meeting with Tamura and his kind of gang of like of villains. But the negotiations don't go well.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, and this guy Overhaul basically kills one dude, and then totally maims another. which is the guy that's like his quirk is like a magician.
Oh, so yeah, he kills one and he kind of takes off the arm of the other one.
Yeah, and and they have a conversation about All for One and kind of like how All Might is like he's weaker now. Why aren't you going to be doing something about it? And like and Overhaul has this notion that you got Hero Killer Stain, the muscular guy, right, and then Moonfish, like
Well,
literally like apprehended. Like these are the top like villains,
mhm.
and now it's like who are you to try to boss me around?
Well, the way that I took it was kind of like because um, the way that they put it, it sounded like uh, for the heroes and the villains, because the people who were at the top, which would be All Might,
Mm-hmm.
who had One for All,
Mm-hmm.
and then the villain, All for One, both got captured.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, every like both on the hero and villain side, it's basically like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Like there's no leadership, there's no way to guide, like there's no one to like look up to because those pillar figures are gone. So it's kind of like I think everybody's kind of thrown for a loop now, and there's no guidance really.
So that's what sorry, that's what Overhaul is saying.
I think
It's a new landscape now. And this is something I think I mentioned during the episode. I think it's like it's kind of weird that we followed these characters as these end all be all characters that they're powerful because they're the main characters, but Overhaul is someone that gets introduced and reminds us as an audience member that there are people that are way stronger in this world versus All Might, Deku, Tamura, and like all these other heroes and villains. There are more people on that hierarchy, and I think that's something that Tamura takes away with, and it's like all their henchmen wants to fight back immediately, but I think Tamura kind of understands that there's more to this character than meets the eye, and I feel like he's gonna take him up on that offer because he threw that like little business card and basically said like let's talk when you all calm down, So am I missing anything else?
I think that's mostly what happens with the villain side, and then it switches over to the hero side.
Yeah, did I reiterate or like restated something from you? Yeah.
No, I think you're good.
See, I feel like I have a habit of like restating other people's points.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Anyway, so as you just mentioned, like the other half of the episode is basically Deku with Minero. Did I say it right? Mirio. And All Might is basically saying to Deku that All Might can't always be there as like a trainer for Deku, which is understandable because of the current situation All Might is in. And so I think the next most sensible thing is to try to pair Deku up with another person. And I think at the very beginning of the episode, we do get like a little reunion of sorts with Deku and Gran Torino. And Gran Torino is off on like a different assignment or something. Like that beginning section of that episode was to just establish that he's busy. So the next best decision is to take Mirio, which is already working under Sir Night Eye, which is used to be All Might's sidekick.
Right, and then like the whole purpose of this was because like they introduced this thing called work study, and it's basically almost like our version of an internship. And so because Gran Torino is off, Deku can't go under Gran Torino for like that intern work study and thing. And so Gran Torino suggests going with Sir Night Eye, who is basically the sidekick of All Might, or was. And then they have that discussion, or he has that discussion with All Might. He's like, "Can I have him as my senpai?" No, I'm just kidding. "Can I have him as my mentor?" And All Might's like, "No. There are like 3 reasons as to why we can't have him as the work study thing. 1, I didn't agree with it in the meeting. 2, students should be focusing on their studies, and 3, I have personal feelings and I can't do that.
And all these the other characters had 4 and 5 together.
Yeah, and then so because All Might's not exactly comfortable going to Sir Night Eye himself, he decides to talk to Mirio about it, who already works under Sir Night Eye. So
sorry,
Halloween spooks. It's a ghost. But yeah, so because Mirio already works under Sir Night Eye, it makes it much more convenient for Mirio to take Deku under his wing to take him to the agency versus All Might doing it. Also because apparently All Might feels very embarrassed that the one thing that Sir Night Eye said would happen did happen, which hasn't been explained yet. So
was that a manga thing?
No, he said that in there.
He was
like,
it. Oh yeah, that's why he mentions it in an episode.
He mentions it offhandedly, like, oh, I feel like I can't talk to him because he said that the one thing that would happen to me happened. And then they do like the stare, and then they change topics.
Yeah. And then I think it was an episode right then and there.
As they go into Sir Night Eye's agency.
Yeah, and as we were getting into Sir Night Eye's agency, we see Bubble Girl getting tickled. I kind of didn't get what was going on.
So,
and I really thought she was getting Me Too'd.
No. So, the very general gist of it is that Sir Night Eye is a very stoic person. So, the one thing he usually wants is for if someone talks to him, like, for them to make him laugh.
Oh, okay.
And she failed to do that, which is why that he put her on the tickle machine, whatever. But then the episode ends with Deku trying to introduce himself to Sir Night Eye, and he like imitates All Might's face, but it doesn't make him laugh.
Yeah,
so he starts panicking, and that's it.
An end episode.
Yeah.
I think I forgot about the next episode preview, but other than that, I really feel that these episodes are still just kind of like going into setting the stage up for the next season. I don't know if there's answers. Did we answer the question of who's the spy in season 3? I don't think we ever did.
Mm-mm.
I honestly thought that the spy arc ended once we figure out Cammy was something else.
There's no official spy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a theory.
I think it was just a hunch, and I felt, because I remember people mentioning, when they mentioned My Hero Academia, it's like, who's the spy, and I thought it was like a point of contention throughout the whole season, and I thought, oh, I should not try to figure out what this is until I finish season 3.
Yeah, no, that's a fan theory. So far there isn't any like evidence 100% to allude to a spy, but yeah. A lot of people are theorizing that there potentially may be a spy in UA.
In UA.
So it's not confirmed, but it's a theory that a lot of fans of the show have.
I wonder if it was just a throwaway line at the beginning of season 3 just to egg people on. I don't know if they're going to get back to it. I know you read the manga, and you mentioned that there's characters in the intro. We didn't really talk about the intro, but we might talk about it next episode. We're still kind of playing around with formats right now.
But I mean, that's usually what happens with a lot of anime. It's just the intro of whatever season it is always acts as kind of like an overview point for that show. Yeah. So a lot of times, like for example, there's a new anime called Demon Slayer that I already finished.
And you've introduced me.
It's a really good anime.
Yeah.
But there are characters that throughout the entire show, their faces are generally blacked out, and the moment that you meet them in the anime, the opening shifts so that you can see their faces, because then you know who they are now.
I didn't notice that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta pay attention.
There are some characters you can obviously see their face, and you're like, I haven't met them yet. When am I gonna meet them? Mm. Like, there are a couple of characters there, but there's a specific group of like a whole bunch of like people standing, and they have their faces are all covered.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll get to see how they look like when you meet them in the show.
That's a good way of doing that, and I think I remember Yuri on Ice kind of did that with their intros. That their intros are slightly different from episode to episode.
Yeah, there's a anime I know you haven't watched, but I used to watch a lot. It's called Haikyuu, which is a volleyball one.
Oh, okay.
And
a lot of sports anime that I know.
Yeah, but that sports one's really good. But in that particular anime, one of the characters in one of the matches gets injured, and then after that episode, the opening would show it so that it showed his injury.
Okay.
Yep.
Alright. So, that being said, and I know that these are animes that I've watched. I need to watch Yuri on Ice.
I need to watch Yuri.
Yeah. Maybe we could do a whole season on Yuri on Ice.
Maybe.
Isn't there a season 2 than that?
No.
I know, it's just season 1. And I know there's a lot of dojins about it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. But anyways, that being said, you did mention Demon Slayer, and kind of like this whole podcast in a whole. As we're wrapping up, it's about 30 minutes. I know I don't have my hourglass with me. But we're still gonna do My Hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm now kind of converting into watching more Demon Slayer. It's been my workout anime other than My Hero Academia right now. So I don't know if y'all as an audience would probably want us to talk about Demon Slayer. I know I wouldn't say flavor of the month because a lot of people would say like that's a negative term, but like
we are a little bit behind. On
behind on Demon Slayer being a thing. But if you want our opinions about it, but it's only about what 12 episodes? Was it a full 24?
I think it's 20 something.
20 something. It's a full 20 something. So maybe if warrants just to have like a whole podcast just dedicated to just Demon Slayer, like maybe in the whole.
I think if we feeling it, 30, if you feeling it, then we'll.
Yeah, if we're feeling it. Right now, I'm in middle of episode 2. I just got introduced to the Goblin character. Don't know if he ever takes off his mask, but I feel like from the intro he never takes off the mask. But I also don't think that's even worth talking about. It's probably just part of the character. Anyways, if y'all want to watch us talk about Demon Slayer, let us know in the comments. We're gonna try to do weekly podcasts for My Hero and probably release this within Sunday or Monday. I think that would be the ideal.
We'll find out when the day.
Yeah. But because now we're in the thick of the anime season of like, oh, My Hero's back on, and we just got news about Violet Evergarden over September, October time. I think it was September. We got the first trailer that's coming out, and throughout our break, the all the stuff that happened in Kyoto Studios and stuff like that. I don't think we'll probably talk about it, but it's not within the My Hero Academia thing.
We can have a discussion on it.
We could have a discussion on that and like
have a discussion on the different anime.
I don't think there was ever a motive to what happened there. And I don't think we ever want to know.
There kind of is, but
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But anyway,
so
that's something that's not My Hero Academia related. So if y'all want us to talk about other things other than that, we'll make space for it and we'll talk about that more thoroughly. But other than that, please like, subscribe, do all that beautiful stuff, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Bye-bye. We're tired now.
We're sleepy.
Sleepy. Bye. Leave. Okay. We're gonna see how bad or well we did with the food thing. So we'll be back and then we'll talk about the ending. All right. We'll see you later. I'm a little sweaty right now. Bye.